Hey everybody, this is the third part of the Chapter 8 test review. So we're going to do questions 8, 9, and 10. Here we go. Question number 8. A ball is thrown in the air with an upward velocity of 6 feet per second. That's a weak throw, okay? Gian probably threw it. So ball's thrown in the air with that velocity, blah, 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 blah. How long does the ball take to reach its maximum height? So let's think about this. If I graphed this situation here, and instead of an x-axis, they used a t. So it's kind of like the x-axis, but it's t. And the height, they're still calling it f, so whatevs. I'll call it height because they use height in the problem. So if I were to graph that, it would look like a parabola because that's the way it works. So you might notice that I started up here. That's 16, okay? This is our initial height. That's our c value. So that tells me where to start my graph on the y-axis, or in this case, the h-axis. So there's my parabola. I was able to sketch it very quickly. I knew that it was going down like a frown because of the negative sign in front of the a value. So we have our a, we have our b, we have our c. So I knew it was going down, opening downward down like a frown because of that negative a value. So when it says, how long does the ball take to reach its maximum height? Anytime they're talking about the maximum height, dude, we are talking about the vertex. So both of those parts are talking about the vertex. So you need to find the vertex. We're going to find the vertex. How obnoxious can I be? The answer is very. So we need to find the vertex. So here's my vertex, which is also known as the maximum height in this situation. All right, so we have a formula for this. It is find the axis of symmetry, negative b divided by 2 times a. Well, this is going to be kind of gross. These numbers are terrible. The b is positive 6, so whenever I plug in the opposite of b, that's going to be a negative 6. Divided by 2 times a is a negative 16. So this is getting real gross. So I've got a negative 6 divided by negative 32, so let's see what that is. I'm going to use a decimal, and the reason I'm using a decimal is because it's going to tell me to round, so I'm going to use a decimal. Even though I really like fractions. Fractions are my favorite. So negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. And 6 divided by 32. So positive 0.1875. So x equals 0.1875. And I have my x value of the vertex, 0.1875. Now let's calculate the y value of our vertex. So that means I have to plug it in. So to find the y value of the vertex, you have to take that x value and plug it into the function. I'm definitely going to need a calculator because I got some decimals and I got some terrible numbers. So I'm going to plug it into the function, which is negative 16 t squared plus 6t plus 16. And we're plugging in a 0.1875. 0.1875. So nothing tricky except the numbers are really gross. When I do this, you gotta remember yo PEMDAS. Please excuse my dumb Aunt Sally. PEMDAS. So that would mean do what's in the parentheses first. Dude, there's nothing to do in the parentheses. Move on. So do the exponents next. I do see an exponent. I see something squared here. So do that. Now I've got my handy dandy calculator right next to me. I'm going to use that. So I've got 0.1875 squared, grossest number ever, Grossest number ever. In fact, it's so gross that I'm not even going to write it down. I'm going to leave it in my calculator because I know that the next thing I need to do is multiply it by negative 16. So because it's gross, I'm just going to hit times negative 16 in my calculator. And it gives me a number that's a little bit less gross. Negative 0.5625. Plus, and I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator to figure that out too. 6 times 0.1875 is 1.125. All right, so I did my exponent, I did my multiplying and dividing. Now my last step is the adding and subtracting. So let's add it all together. Negative 0.5625 plus 1.125 plus 16 equals 16.5625. Wow. That's exciting. So what is the ball's maximum height rounded to the nearest hundredth? Well, the maximum height is 16.5625, and I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, which is the second decimal place. So we have to look at the number after it. And since it's a 2, we will not be rounding up. So there's the maximum height. And the maximum, how long did it take? I forgot to write that down. That was the x coordinate, or the t coordinate, I guess, because they did this one with t's for time. And that maximum time was, that time it took to get the maximum height is 0.1875 seconds. And when they were talking about height, I think that was in feet, so I can use feet. What was the ball's initial height before it was thrown? Well, that's your C, that's your starting point. And our C was 16, so 16 feet. All right, guys, so number 8 had some gross stuff on it, but that's how you do it. I hope you liked it. It was awesome. All right, next. So we got 2 questions left. Number 9 is going to be a quick one. With number 9, it gives you all of the information. It tells you it's going to be $4 multiplied by the area. And then they say, hey, it's a square, so they just give you the formula right there. So, but they do ask for you to tell the reasonable domain. Now, if I am tiling the floor, am I going to have a floor that has a negative side length? The answer is no. Floors don't have negative sides. That doesn't make sense. That violates all the laws of physics that I don't even know about. Doesn't make sense. Stupid. So I expect my side lengths to all be bigger than 0 because we're not going to have a negative side. That's dumb. So what's a reasonable domain? Remember, domain means your x values. So what's a reasonable domain? When x is bigger than 0. Now, the tricky part is, where do you stop? Is Kendrick going to have a room that has a side that's 10,000 feet? He might. I don't know how rich he is. He could. Who knows? So I don't really know where to draw the line, but I know it's not going to be a negative number. So x must be greater than 0. Then it says, how much would it cost to install the tile in a room that's 13 by 13? So we're saying when x equals 13, how much is that going to cost? So plug it in. Find g of 13. 4 times 13 squared. Remember to do order of operations. When you guys every time you don't do order of operations, that means a fairy loses its wings. Yep. It's true. So order of operations means you're doing 13 squared first. 13 squared is 169. And then 4 times 169. Oh, come on, calculator, help me out. 676. And that's dollars. Dollar bill, y'all. So if your floor is 13 foot by 13 foot, then that's going to be $676 to tile the floor. That's not too bad. All right, last one here. We got number 10. A biologist took count of the number of fish in a particular lake and recounted the lake's population every month for 6 months. So what is the initial population? What did we start with? We started with 6 fish. And in standard form, where would that be? So standard form, just a reminder. So the number that you start with, that starting point, is your C value. So which letter in standard form is represented by that six fish? That would be the C. The C. That makes sense that fish would be in the sea. Do you get it? It's like the letter C. Tough crowd. Given that the information in blah, 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 blah. So pretend that first question never happened, and now they're giving us an equation. Predict how many fish there will be at 10 months. So all that means is just like the previous question, we just got to drop that number in there. So how many fish in 10 months? So replacing X with 10. How many fish in 10 months will we have? Remember order of operations. So that means do the exponent first. So 10 squared. Please don't mess that up. Remember, every time you mess up order of operations, there's a baby somewhere that's crying because of you. Every time it rains outside, it's because it's God crying that somebody messed up order of operations. So we got 2 times 100 is 200 minus 10 plus 1. 200 minus 10 is 190 plus 1 is 191. So 191 fish at 10 months. So F of 10. I like how the function is named F and we're talking about fish. I feel like that makes sense. All right, so that is the whole test review. And what I've gotten from doing this test review is make sure that you use order of operations, make sure you know the parts of standard form and vertex form, and make sure you don't mess up. Good piece of advice for you. All right, that's it. See ya.